So your question, the difference between a thought, or indeed any object, but let's explore thoughts to begin with, and the space or the space-like field in which they arise. So prior to the arising of a thought or a perception, what is there in this empty knowing field other than this empty knowing? Obviously there's nothing else there, because the question is, what is there before anything else has arisen within it, before any thought has appeared or perception? So prior to the arising of any thought or perception, there is just this empty knowing field. Now, does the thought, when a thought arises, is it placed into the field from the outside, or does it arise from within the field? That does it enter the stage like an actor waiting in the wings just off stage, and then appears on the stage? Is your next thought waiting just outside the field of awareness, waiting to make its entry, or does the next thought arise within awareness? What is your experience?
Well, within awareness.
Okay, and what is there in awareness prior to the arising of the thought, out of which the subsequent thought could be made?
Well, awareness is awareness.
What else is there that out of which the thought could be made? Or rather, is there anything there? Is there anything else there?
No.
So the only substance present in awareness, out of which thought, or indeed any experience could be made, is awareness itself. If you leave a bucket of water outside on a frosty night, ice will form in the bucket. Is the ice placed into the bucket from the outside, or does it form within the bucket of water? It forms within the bucket of water, and all there is in the bucket of water is water. There's nothing else that the ice could be made of. So although the ice seems to be something different from the water, seems to have a different name and a different form, it is made out of the stuff of water. And likewise, a thought, the only stuff present in awareness is awareness. There is nothing else present out of which the thought, or indeed any experience, could be made, because all experience arises within awareness. Have you ever had, or could you ever have, an experience that arose outside of awareness and then entered into awareness? No. So all thoughts and perceptions arise in awareness, and therefore awareness is the only thing present that any experience could be made of. So the question then remains, well, what is the difference between a thought and awareness if a thought is only made of awareness, but at the same time a thought seems to be something different from awareness? A thought is something, but awareness is not any kind of a thing. So how can we reconcile these two facts of experience? In this way, by saying that the thought is a modulation, or a temporary name and form of awareness, just like ice is a temporary name and form of water. So let's break this down into stages. Is there anything to a thought other than the experience of thinking?
No.
And is there anything to thinking other than the knowing of it?
No.
So knowing is awareness. So when we talk of something called a thought, we talk about an object. And a thought seems to be a discrete object, an object with its own independent existence. But when we look more closely, we never actually find a discrete object called a thought. For instance, take the thought, what shall we have for dinner tonight? Sound the thought in your mind, what shall we have for dinner tonight? And when slow it down, replay it in slow motion in your mind. When the what sounds in your mind, where is the shall we have for dinner tonight? Is it waiting just outside awareness to come in, or is it totally non-existent?
Oh, totally non-existent.
It's utterly non-existent. And when the shall sounds in your mind, where is the what and the we have for dinner tonight? The what has vanished. So we never even experience a thought in the way we think we do. Thought is more like a process of thinking rather than an object called a thought. So now go to the process of thinking, which is less... thinking is a verb. A thought is a noun. It's less substantial. So now take the experience of thinking. If you were to touch the stuff that thinking is made of, what is there? What is the substance, the stuff it is made of?
Well, it would be awareness.
The knowing of it.
The knowing of it, yeah.
Yeah. Not even the knowing of it, because there's no it other than knowing. So the thinking is just a modulation of knowing. It's not the knowing of it. So when the teaching speaks of thoughts appearing in awareness, like objects appearing in empty space, it's just a halfway stage of understanding. It's an antidote to the belief that awareness appears in the body. So as a first step, we say, no, look at your experience. The body, and indeed our perception of the world, appears in awareness. It's just a first step to reverse the normal process of thinking. Once we're comfortable with that understanding, the teaching then contradicts itself and says, no, actually it's not true, that there is no such thing as a discrete thought that appears in awareness, like an object, relatively speaking, appears in space. There is just a process of thinking. And if we touch the stuff, if we go up closely to the experience of thinking and touch it, so to speak, what is actually there, all we find is the knowing of it. So thinking is more like a current in the ocean than a fish in the ocean. When I described thinking like a bird flying through the sky, that was okay at a certain level of understanding, but we have to abandon that stage of understanding, and then we use a subtler image, like a current in the ocean, made only of water.
Sure.
And do the same with an emotion. Is there anything to an emotion other than feeling? And is there anything to feeling other than knowing? Yeah. And what about the sensation of your hand on the mic? Is there anything to that sensation other than sensing? And anything to sensing other than knowing? And what about the sight of this room, made only of seeing, and seeing made only of knowing? So if we just stay very closely, very honestly, very simply with our experience, knowing or awareness or consciousness is the only substance that is ever found in experience. Nobody has ever experienced or could ever experience anything other than knowing. When I say nobody has ever experienced anything other than knowing, I don't mean that somebody experiences knowing. It is this knowing that knows only itself, only this knowing.
Yeah.
So in the ultimate analysis, there are no objects, no discrete objects or selves.
No, that I kind of understand, but I think what I was following on from was, I understand all what you said, but I was thinking, do I feel a difference between just this open awareness and a thought? Because, like you say, a thought is made of the knowing of it. And so I'm sensing that when I have a thought, or when I was having a thought in that exercise, it was kind of taking me away from this.
Well, a thought can take you away from this if it is different from this. But if a thought is made only of this, then how could this take you away from this?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So at a certain stage of understanding, where objects are considered to be something other than awareness, when we're in what I sometimes refer to as the second stage of understanding, where we have separated awareness from objects. I am not my thoughts. I am that which is aware of my thoughts. I am not my feelings and sensations. I am that which is aware of feelings and sensations. I am not my perceptions. I am that which is aware of my perceptions. Here we have made a distinction between awareness and its objects for the purpose of drawing attention to the presence and the primacy and the nature of awareness, which in most cases, for most people, is overlooked. And because it is overlooked or ignored by most people, it is legitimate to make this distinction to begin with. Now, from this point of view, at this stage of understanding, our thoughts, feelings, sensations, and perceptions are a distraction from awareness. If we are paying attention exclusively to thoughts, feelings, sensations, and perceptions, we are ignoring the background of awareness. So at this stage of understanding, it is legitimate to consider them a distraction, and as a result, to turn our attention away from them. And there are practices which we do here. Turn your attention away from the objects of experience and be aware of the experience of being aware. This is the inward-facing path, the via negativa, the neti-neti approach. I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this. But when the presence, the primacy, and the nature of awareness have been established in our experience, it's then necessary to collapse the apparent distinction between awareness and its objects, because that distinction is just pedantic. It's just a teaching tool. There's no real distinction. There are not two things. Advaita, not two. There isn't awareness. There aren't awareness and objects. So that's in this later stages of this investigation, we collapse the distinction as we have done here. We see that a thought is not really an object of awareness, not even an object in awareness. It is the very activity of awareness itself. Just as the world that you dream of at night is not an object in your mind. You can't pluck a dream out of your mind and say, look, here is an object called a dreamed world. No, all that is there is the activity of your own mind. But all there is in experience is the activity of consciousness. And at this stage, there's no question of being distracted by anything. Because what is there in experience other than consciousness, with which consciousness could be distracted from itself?
Absolutely.
And in this stage, we no longer need to turn away from objects. We're no longer on the via negativa. This is the via positiva, the tantric path. We're going outwards again, towards the apparent objects of experience, because wherever we look, there is only the knowing of experience.